An Amish farmstead in Lancaster County keeps every door and window open from May through September, and not a single housefly makes it past the threshold. No screens, no sprays, no electric zappers humming in the corner. The women of that household figured out something that most people living 2 miles down the road have never once considered. It starts with a bundle of plants hung so precisely at the doorframe that the arrangement itself does the work. And the reason it works goes all the way down to insect biology, to how a fly's nervous system responds to certain airborne compounds before it even decides to land. Stay right here because once this mechanism clicks into place, it is almost impossible to unsee. The average American household spends between $300 and $1,200 a year on pest control, according to a 2019 National Pest Management Association survey. And 68% of those same households still report seeing insects inside on a regular basis. They are spending $1,000 a year and the bugs are still there. Meanwhile, an 81-year-old Amish carpenter named Mose, working in his shop just outside Berlin, Ohio, has not had a bug cross his threshold in decades. So what does Mose know that the pest control industry would rather you never ask about? The first time I understood how deep this goes, I was standing on a porch in Charm, Ohio, waiting for a man named Eli to bring me a glass of well water. I looked down at the door frame and I almost laughed. Running the full width of the threshold was a thin line of white powder, soft and chalky, barely visible unless you knew to look. I asked Eli what it was. He said, "That is what keeps the bugs honest." He showed me the back door. Same line. The cellar door, same line. The windowsills in the children's room, same line, just thinner. The powder was three things: food-grade diatomaceous earth, powdered boric acid, and ground bay leaf. That is the entire formula. A batch large enough to treat every doorway in a 3-bedroom house costs about $1 to make and lasts a full season. Penn State Extension confirmed in a 2019 study that food-grade diatomaceous earth kills 90% of crawling insects within 72 hours of contact. The mechanism is not chemical at all. Diatomaceous earth is made of fossilized single-celled algae called diatoms, and under a microscope every particle has edges sharp enough to cut through the waxy outer layer of an insect's exoskeleton. Once that layer is breached, the insect loses moisture and dehydrates. It cannot build immunity to this because there is nothing biological to be immune to. Auburn University followed up with boric acid research in 2014 and found something even more interesting. Ants and roaches that walk through boric acid carry it back to their nest on their legs. The colony grooms itself, they ingest the powder, and the entire nest collapses within 2 weeks. Not just the scouts you see crossing your floor, the thousands you never see. And the bay leaf is where it gets genuinely surprising. Cornell published research in 2008 showing that the compound in bay leaf called eucalyptol acts as a powerful repellent against ants, moths, and silverfish. It does not kill them. It sends a signal to their nervous system that says, "Turn around, this doorway is not yours." So the three ingredients work in sequence. The bay leaf tells them not to enter, the diatomaceous earth cuts the ones who ignore the warning, and the boric acid follows the survivors home and ends the colony. $1, 3 ingredients, genuinely better results. So why is none of this in any hardware store catalog? I found part of the answer buried in Farmer's Bulletin number 1479, a USDA document from 1923 distributed across Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Indiana. It described almost exactly what Eli showed me on that porch. A doorway powder using diatomaceous earth, borax, and dried herbs listed as standard practice on working farms across those states. Then 1947 arrived, and so did the synthetic pesticide industry, riding a wave of post-war chemistry and aggressive advertising. DDT was being sold as a miracle. Women's magazines ran page after page of ads showing a frazzled housewife rescued by a man in a white coat holding a spray can. The message was clear. The old ways were dirty, old-fashioned, and embarrassing. The USDA stopped reprinting Bulletin 1379. By 1955, the recipe had vanished from Extension Service literature entirely. Not because it stopped working, because nobody could patent three things you buy in bulk for pennies. The pest control industry in the United States is worth roughly $9 billion annually. Its revenue depends on recurring visits, recurring sprays, recurring contracts. A threshold powder you mix once and reapply every 4 months is the enemy of that model. Not because it is unproven, because it is proven and it is free. Now, this channel does not do miracle cures. I want to be honest with you about what the powder does and does not do. In temperate climates, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Indiana, the upper Midwest, it is extremely effective against ants, beetles, silverfish, moths, fleas, and common cockroaches. In tropical climates like Florida or southern Texas, the biology changes, the insects are larger and different, and the recipe may need heavier and more frequent application. The Amish developed this system in one specific environment, and it is brilliant in that environment. Here is exactly how to do it this weekend. Buy 1 pound of food-grade diatomaceous earth, about $8 to $15 online or at any farm supply store. Make absolutely sure the label says food grade. The pool grade version is chemically treated and dangerous to breathe. Buy a box of borax laundry booster, about $3 at any grocery store. Buy a jar of whole dried bay leaves, about $2 in the spice aisle. Grind 8 bay leaves in a coffee grinder until they are fine powder. Mix 1 cup of diatomaceous earth, a quarter cup of borax, and the ground bay leaf in a glass jar and shake it. Go to every exterior door, open it, and look at where the threshold meets the floor on the inside. Sprinkle a thin line of the powder along that seam and use your finger to press it gently into the gap. The line should be barely visible. You are not building a wall, you are making a moat. Repeat along every ground floor windowsill and along the seam where your basement walls meet the basement floor. The whole job takes 20 minutes. Reapply every 4 months or after any section gets soaked by rainwater. Total cost for an average house, under $10. Now here is the piece that almost nobody outside those settlements knows. The powder gets you 90% of the way there. The Amish do one more thing that gets them the rest of the way. And I only learned about it from that 81-year-old carpenter, Mose, in his workshop outside Berlin, Ohio on a cold afternoon in November. He pulled me over to a stack of door frames he was building for a young couple and told me to smell the threshold piece. I leaned down. Cedar. But underneath the cedar something sharper, almost minty, almost medicinal. He had soaked the wood in pennyroyal oil for 3 full days before installing it. Pennyroyal is a wild mint that grows across the eastern United States. The oil is concentrated enough that a single drop kills a tick on contact. What the Amish discovered and kept quietly practicing for generations is that wood soaked in pennyroyal oil before installation becomes a permanent insect barrier. The oil bonds with the wood fibers and releases slowly over years. It does not wash out. Mose showed me a threshold he had pulled from a house built in 1961. He scratched the surface with his thumbnail and the herbal scent rose immediately, still active after 63 years. The documented version of this practice appears in a book called The Pennsylvania German Cookbook, published in 1934 by Edna E.B. Heller. On page 217, there is a recipe she calls door oil. Pennyroyal, cedarwood, and a small amount of clove mixed into linseed oil and brushed onto thresholds and windowsills. She wrote that her mother had learned it from a woman who came over from the Palatinate region of Germany in the 1840s. And that every house she grew up visiting in Lancaster County had this oil on the wood. She wrote that nobody she knew had a bug problem. Then the book went out of print. Here is how to apply it to a house you already own without replacing a single board. Buy a small bottle of pennyroyal essential oil, about $10 online. Mix 20 drops into a quarter cup of pure linseed oil. Wipe the mixture onto your front door threshold with a clean rag and let it soak in for about an hour. Do the same to every exterior wooden threshold and ground floor windowsill. Wipe off any excess. The scent is strong on day 1. By day 3, you barely notice it. But every crawling and flying insect that approaches that wood notices it immediately. One caution the Amish have known for 200 years. Pennyroyal oil is toxic to cats and harmful to pregnant women in concentrated form. Apply it only to exterior thresholds where the wood absorbs it and open air dilutes it, never inside a closed room. So here is the full system: the powder along the seam, the oil in the wood. Together, they create what the Amish simply call a clean threshold. Total cost for a 3-bedroom house, about $28. Total time, roughly 1 hour. The powder lasts 4 months. The oil lasts 15 years. This is what they took from you, not a product. A piece of common knowledge that belonged to every household in this country before 1955, quietly filed away so that someone else could charge you every month to solve a problem your great-grandmother solved for free. If you are the kind of person who believes real solutions were gently pushed aside so someone else could keep sending you bills, you already know what to do this weekend. Tell me in the comments, which door are you starting with? And next week, I am going to show you what the Amish pack into their wall cavities during construction that keeps their homes 30 degrees cooler in summer with no electricity at all. It is not insulation. It is not a fan. It is something harvested from a specific tree in a specific month, and it has been doing the work of a $5,000 cooling system for over 2 centuries. I will see you then.